You know when you hear someone says they have a problem and you kind of don't believe them? Like you think they're playing it up, and then when you see it, you're like, oh, that's bad. Enter your boy Zach, the reviewer formerly known as Diversity in Comics. He was talking about editing his new Jawbreaker's God King trade and talking about matching the barcodes. Now, I'm not talking about making sure the boxes are the same size on the cover. No, I'm talking about the code itself. This nigga is trying to match the fucking lines and the barcodes. I'm not kidding, listen to his video. Like he's trying to get the spacing to be the same. What? And the numbers, he wants the numbers to match. Dude, they're not supposed to match, that's the point. I mean, Jesus, I've heard of OCD, but oh my god. He's tripping over the numbers. What do you do? What do you do? We know this man can never be a mass shooter because he can never bear to lose rounds. They'd all have to be in the same production order or he'd go nuts. But if he did go on a shooting spree, we'd know how to find him. Just go to his house and look for the missing box of rounds because he'd have them all lined up in numerical order by the UPC code. He'd never be able to buy them online. He'd have to go to a store and be like, I want 12 boxes. And the clerk would come out and he's like, no, you don't understand. I need them in order. Dude, it's 12 boxes. Like, no, you don't understand. I need them in UPC order. All the cops would have to do is just go to the store and the clerk would be like, yes, it's him. I spent 40 minutes in the back matching the barcodes. It's him. Could you imagine them trying to fill a salt shaker? It's got to have like exactly 2,500 grains or it's no good. And he's counting them out individually. Like, what if he drops one? He's there with his bare foot feeling the floor trying to find the one granule. And when he gets it, he's like, can I wash this? Because his OCD ain't going to let him put it back in the shaker. It's dirty now. He's like, can I wash this and get it clean before it dissolves? And I would just have to fuck with him. If I were the printer, on that final print, I'd move the barcode by like 1 millimeter. Nobody else would catch it, but his OCD sharding gun is unlocked and he'd totally see it. He'd be showing Ethan Mascavity like, it's off. I don't see it. He whips out a ruler and measures it. It's 1 millimeter off. Okay. Now, speaking of Richard, can I get a skin graft for that epic burn Meyer? He mentioned in the video that if a place where you can buy things goes away, then that industry is done. So I want you to listen carefully because you've probably forgotten all about this thing since the place where you can buy it hasn't existed for a decade. So listen carefully. You're going to be amazed. That's a thing called music, which clearly shouldn't exist because there are no longer music stores. The music industry is gone. Nobody makes music anymore. They don't even make musical instruments anymore. Oh, wait. The loss of the comic book stores wouldn't end the comic book industry. You can still buy comics from other places. It would definitely hurt the industry in the long run, though. This all started because YouTuber Comics Explained wrote a tweet where he said he didn't get why people need comic book stores in the age of digital media. A lot of people have responded to this, but I want to give my take, and it's primarily from a business standpoint. There are 3 basic reasons why you need comic book stores: browsability, new sales, and community. Number 1, browsability. Simply put, it's hard to sell books without people being able to look through them. Think about a novel. You can see the cover online and read a synopsis, but you can't flip through the pages, find a spot, start reading, and then go, you know what? I think I'll pick this up. You just can't do that online. But you can do that in a bookstore. And having worked at Walden Books for 2 years, I saw a lot of books get purchased this way. This is even more important with a comic book because with a novel, you already know the cover isn't exactly what's in the book. I mean, it's not a picture book, it's prose. But a comic is a picture book, and the cover usually doesn't match the interior art. For many people, the art is the selling point. Being able to see what the art looks like can help you decide whether or not to pick it up. And you just can't do that online. Yeah, you could post preview pages, but you could easily just pick the best pages, which would give a false impression of what the actual art in the book looks like. The other element is just walking around and finding things. Something might catch your eye and suddenly you're buying it. That's how I got into Legion of Superheroes. I saw this cover with Ra's al Ghul, flipped through the book, loved the art, and checked to see if the store had the previous issues. They did, so I bought them all, and stayed with the book until Abnett and Lanning left. That wouldn't have happened if I was just browsing online. I probably wouldn't even have seen the book. Number 2, new sales. This happens all the time. Someone walks into a store, is a total newbie or shopping for a kid, and has no idea what to get. If they're online, they're on their own. If they're in a store, They can ask for help, or the person in the shop might see them being clueless and offer help, or one of the customers might do it. This is a great way to move product, especially if the person really wants to spend money. You can sell trades, you can sell old books. That's something online services just can't provide. There are plenty of comics out there that are out of print and will never end up in trades that the stores bundle and sell at a discount. The clerk can make that pitch and sale, which isn't going to happen online at all. There's also the impulse buy that I mentioned before. You put certain titles by the counter and people might snatch them up. That's less likely to happen online, even though some online stores offer suggestions as you're adding things to your cart. In the store, you can talk that person into making a purchase, whereas online, it's just there. Number 3, community. This goes back to people suggesting books to each other, but also that many stores offer gaming spaces where people can come and play tabletop games. You can have local artists and writers show up for signings. You can have people show up for conventions. But this can be more general. You can just make connections with people. Case in point, I met one of my friends by going to FYE and just browsing around. He worked there, saw me looking at the anime, and we started chatting. When I dropped by to see what was out, and he was there, we talked, and eventually we traded numbers, started talking over the phone. I've known the dude for almost 20 years. I've bought movies, watched TV shows, got comics and music and games because he suggested them, and the same thing the other way around. Hell, I got him into watching the CWDC shows, and I don't even watch the shows. I just mentioned it to him. All that happened because I was in a store. That would have never happened over something like an app. Now, one of the other things is that if the comic book industry is going to keep up with the single issue business model, they need a place to sell it. And currently the main place is in brick and mortar stores. Most people aren't going to read single issues online. Most people like having the physical book in their hands. That's the reason why the print market has dropped, but not gone away. People like having physical books. So if the industry plans on keeping this outdated single issue business model, they need comic book stores to carry the books because nowhere else sells them. They could, they just don't. And if the industry got rid of this and went with the trade or graphic novel approach, then I could see the comic book stores going away, although you'd still need bookstores to carry the books. Even then, there are a host of small publishers that couldn't get into Barnes & Noble, for example. They would need a place to sell their books. Most of them probably aren't going to be putting out trades, so their single issues would need a home, and the comic book store is a place for that. If those stores went away, big companies like Marvel, DC, IDW, Boom, Image, and Dark Horse would be fine, but smaller companies would crash and burn. Getting rid of the stores would effectively kill the indie publishers, and I don't think that's a good thing. You need competition to keep interest, and physical locations provide the best method for it. And if going digital were really the best business model, you'd think the Japanese, who do a lot of mobile activity via smartphones, would be all over this. But they're not. Their print media took a hit too, but they still publish tons of physical books and sell them everywhere. That's one of the many reasons why their comic book market is stronger than the American comic book market. But what do I know? I'm just some guy.